Good afternoon. Um, Unlike other speakers, I'm a bit jet-lagged and a bit intoxicated. Jet-lagged because I flew from Asia 30 hours ago, and I didn't get good night's sleep the previous night. So Ellie, being a persistent and disciplined organizer, she was saying, where is your slides, and where are your, what are the talking points you're going to make? And as I flew 11 hours from Taiwan to San Francisco, as I landed, I had so many texts that I had to reply and then settle on the PowerPoint presentation. I'm a bit intoxicated because today is Tibetan New Year. So on the first day of New Year, you're supposed to have relaxed time, drink a bit, eat a bit, sing a bit, and talk to all your friends and family members, wishing them, New Year. So I did all that. That's why I'm a bit intoxicated. But then, as per Tibetan tradition, we believe that whatever you do on the first day, you will do exactly the same thing for 365 days. So because I'm standing here and talking to you guys, and in the afternoon, I have 2 engagements. So this year I will have 730 engagements. So that's being imposed by HRF and Special Ellie, okay? I'm supposed to go to a party, and talk to all my friends. I could not do any of that, and I switched off my phone because, I kept getting New Year wishes. But I accepted this talk mainly because we are downplaying or not fully celebrating Tibetan New Year. Because just a few months ago, there was a major earthquake in Tibet. Hundreds of Tibetans died. And then in solidarity and in showing our condolences towards them, we are not celebrating our New Year fully. And that's why I also thought maybe I should talk about earthquake in Tibet. So you can clearly see I wanted to talk about earthquake, and lo and behold, yesterday there was an earthquake in Nepal. And, it affected neighboring countries, including inside Tibet and Nepal and India and Bhutan as well. And this was in January. You can clearly see major earthquake in Tibet. Hundreds died. And then there was a complete shutdown, and as far as information is concerned, because the Chinese government didn't want people outside to know how many died as to why. Why they want to hide the earthquake victims or casualties in Tibet. And it's not surprising. There's so many earthquakes in that area. In Nepal, 215, major earthquake, thousands died. Afghanistan, Sikkim, Pakistan, and Assam, this is in 1950. Why there are so many earthquakes in that part of the world? Because the Chinese government is building so many dams. Dams causes earthquake. Because when you dam, you have all this water, and it pushes the soil underneath, even rocks, and then it leads to earthquake. Now the Chinese government, we all have heard about Three Gorges Dam, the largest dam in the world, right? Or Yangtze River. The Chinese government is planning to build larger dam than Three Gorges Dam, right at the bend. Right at the bend. This is Brahmaputra River. This is the Great Bend between Tibet and India. Now, Tibet is under China. So this is where they want to build the largest dam. That means more earthquakes. Now, just last year, the Chinese government was planning to build a major dam in a place called Dege. Hundreds of people came out and protested. They were beaten, arrested, put in prison. Again, there was a clampdown on news getting out. Why people were protesting? Whenever you build dams, you have to submerge all these villages, 1,000-year-old artifacts. That's why people were out there in the streets saying, this is where I was born, my parents were born, my grandparents were born and died. This is our home. Don't build dam and submerge the whole thing, our memory, our livelihood, everything. But the Chinese government arrested them, put them in prison, and went on to build a dam. Now, why is the Chinese government building so many dams? To generate energy. Do Tibetans need any more energy? No, because we have surplus of energy. But Chinese government is building dams after dams after dam. Why? Because they need power. For all the factories in China, for to build AI, you need more energy now. By 2030, some say that world needs 20 to 25% more energy. Now, whenever Chinese government has this breakthrough about DeepSeek, right? To develop that, you need energy. And where do they get the energy? By building dams in Tibet. And then Tibetans have to suffer because there are major earthquakes, their villages are submerged, their livelihood are destroyed. Now, Tibet, as you can see, Tibet is also called the third pole. After Antarctica and Arctic, Tibet has the third largest glaciers, 40,000 glaciers. Now, I could make an argument that Tibetan Plateau, or the third pole, is more important than Antarctica and Arctic, because when the glaciers of Antarctica and Arctic melt, it goes to ocean, becomes salt water. It's not drinkable. Now, Tibetan glaciers, when they melt, it forms streams, rivers, and it's drinkable. That's why 1.4 billion people in this area depend on water flowing from Tibet. Now, if you build dams, you can control the flow of water. And countries downstream are dependent on the Chinese government, because if you release water or don't release water for a week or two, it can affect agriculture. And if you flood during war, you can essentially wash out all the infrastructure, the railway line, the roads, everything. So, you can weaponize dams at the cost of Tibetan people and Tibetan Plateau. Now, I really don't want to go into details, but you can see Yellow River, Yangtze River, they all originate in Tibet. Mekong, Salwan, Irrawaddy, Brahmaputra. This is the bend where the Chinese government is planning to build a dam, and then this will affect all this area. And then already, this whole of Himalayan belt are undergoing or experiencing many earthquakes. Why there are so many earthquakes? Already, by nature, this is Tibet, this is India, right? This is Bangladesh and all that. This is called Indian plate. Some say that 50 million years ago, this was a separate land somewhere in Australia or in Africa. And it kept moving up. And the Tibetan plateau was the Eurasian plate. And both hit joint. And then the Indian plate, you can see it went underneath. And that's why Tibet has all these mountains. Even today, the Indian plate is pushing the Eurasian plate. That's why all the major mountains of Tibet, even including Mount Everest, it grows by a couple of centimeters a year. So that means this area is already a seismic zone, earthquake-prone zone. Now, if you build dams after dams after dams, you are endangering, you are magnifying the danger of more earthquakes. Now, Chinese government is not just satisfied with exploiting Tibetan water by building dams and generating energy. They take Tibetan water and give it to Maldives. Now the people in Maldives, they think, oh, it's the Chinese government is providing us Chinese water, but it's Tibetan water. Now we all drink water, we all have to buy water, right? So Tibet is so rich in water. Had we sold, and even today, if we sell, we'll be one of the richest countries in the world. Tibet is also rich in natural resources. Now, major dams are built to generate electricity for mining purposes as well. Now, why I show you these mineral resources? Because today, as per yesterday's headlines, President Zelensky is coming to Washington, D.C. to sign an agreement with President Trump for critical minerals of Ukraine. $500 billion worth, some estimate. But Tibet is so rich in mineral resources. I think one could make an argument that there is $1 trillion worth of mineral resources. So if there's any country who would like to sign an agreement for critical minerals, Tibetans are here as well. Now, there are a lot of protests inside Tibet against damming, against exploitation of mineral resources, including self-immolations. Unfortunately, not many people know this, but in Tibet, 136 Tibetans have burned themselves, of which 122 have died, to protest against the occupation of Tibet, colonization of Tibet, and exploitation of minerals and water. Now let me end with this. Why Tibet was occupied, why Uyghur region was occupied, why Inner Mongolia was occupied, primarily for natural resources. Look at, if America or Europe, any country in the world would like to help us if we have critical minerals, I want to say we do. And you could help us. Uyghur region has 21 billion tons of oil reserve. 80% of cotton of China comes from Uyghur region. Inner Mongolia is the largest coal-producing region and largest gas reserve, and 90% of the rare earth of China. If you're using phone or laptop, any gadgets, you need rare earth. Rare earth is in the news nowadays. 90% of the rare earth of China is in Inner Mongolia. And then largest reserve of lithium. If you are driving electric car and carrying iPhone and laptops and wearing 100% cotton clothes, all made in China, you should remember that cloth is 80% Uyghur. Your laptop is 90% Inner Mongolian and 70% Tibetan. So that's why Chinese products are so cheap, because of exploitation of Tibetans, Uyghurs, and Mongolians. That's why we, Tibetans, are colonized, Uyghur region is colonized, Inner Mongolia is colonized, and we all need to know about this, and whenever Chinese government comes with a propaganda narrative, you can counter it by saying, oh, these are colonies, you are a colonizer. Why I say this is because there's a great power politics going on, and Chinese government and some other countries are making an argument that we should replace this West-led world order with Chinese-led world order. I can tell you one thing, the West-led world order that we have now has double standard, has hypocrisy. I accept that, has a lot of faults. But the Chinese world order that we know is a disaster, is repressive, is exploitative. Today, I can stand here and criticize American government, European leaders, but I can walk out the door free. But I cannot say these things in China. I will be arrested. I will be put to jail. So that's why I'm standing here, because I'm banned from entering from my own country, my own homeland. I can talk about my people out here, but I cannot go and meet my own people back in Tibet. That's the Chinese world order that we really don't want. Thank you.